Let me know.
All right.
Ready to get the curtains up. Ready? Awesome. Well, would you all join us, please, for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Can we close the last meeting?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Well, there, with that, before we get the board meeting started, we do have a public hearing this evening to open first. So I suspect you're all here for the public. Come on, Lisette. We're counting on you.
Yeah, she's got it
Counting on you.
on page whatever.
So the public hearings regarding the special town meeting warrant, and I guess we can do this a couple ways. I'll go through and I can just read off the title through the agenda, and if anybody has any questions, comments on any of those, we can address them. That's all right with everybody. So number one on the town meeting warrant is the Newcastle Damariscotta Harbor Management Ordinance and Interlocal Agreement. Is there any questions, comments regarding that? Anybody? Was that moving on? Okay. All right. We're going to move on from there. The Joint Shellfish Conservation Ordinance. Any questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none. 3, the Land Use Ordinance. Any questions, comments pertaining to any changes there? No. All right. Moving on. 4 will be the Shoreland Zone Ordinance for potential changes on additions there. Nope. Hearing none. All right. I'm watching you, Lisette. You better come up with Awesome. No, you're good. Yeah. So, all right. 5, comprehensive plan. Nothing going on there. We can move. No. Skip over that one. No. Comp plan. Any questions, comments, concerns on the comp plan?
137 pages.
Yeah. Dan, do you want to?
I would like to
Yeah.
suggest that, and I had been emailing with Andy, is that what's here in this packet for the public hearing is not the whole comprehensive plan. It's missing the whole centerpiece, all the topic area discussions. And so I would like to suggest this as presented to the planning board on Monday, because that was the whole plan. And so you're missing a whole 150 pages or something.
Oh, I got
out of it.
Yeah.
So it's not all there. So, and Andy said, well, the implementation matrix is there, and then sort of the future land use piece is there. That is true, but there's like 14 different topic areas that
Weren't in
no.
okay.
And
No.
and it's on the website.
Yeah.
You can go there and it's like 286 pages. So it's pretty interesting.
Only.
But it makes for great reading. So
How many times have we read it?
there you go.
Going on. Yeah.
But I would just suggest that because it's going to go here, and then assuming the town approves it, then it goes to the state, and then what they're going to look at is the whole plan,
Correct.
and that's what they sort of do their scoring against to make sure that it's in compliance with the Growth Act.
Okay.
Yeah, the intention wasn't to cut out those when they get submitted by any means or be considered. It was just, that's the language I had on the other articles, and it did go through their own hearings. All of them have gone through hearings with the planning board or the Shellfish Committee or the Harbor Committee already.
Yeah.
Right.
And so just given that it was 200 and something odd pages, I tried to, for the sake of if people had questions, try to anticipate what might they be on, and that was, I agree
Yeah.
with that. And
Okay. Okay. As long as we're clear, yeah, with the inventions. Okay.
Yeah, was
And we
that?
can- we could-
She's
Yes,
already-
Lisette.
Adding the website.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
you can find it on there.
it's the town website. It's attached both to the hyperlink, I think, on the front.
Yeah, it's under news, and it's like the second thing down, second article down, and you just press on it in this whole. And then you can also do it through the comprehensive plan site as well.
Yeah.
Don't we have a copy of it printed here to be
We do.
read? Look,
Yep.
you can read it physically here.
Yeah, what we have on there is next under the article,
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
that there'd be an attested copy here at the website and then here at this office, along with all of the other articles being considered. Those documents will be available online and at the office for review.
Okay. All right. All right. More comments, questions on that? We'll move on to 6, which would be the undesignated fund balance for EV chargers. Any questions, comments? Hearing none.
Did we
I guess not.
submit, did
Yeah.
we submit it, Andy?
It's a warrant.
This is just.
So
a-
it's pending tonight, or that meeting's approval, I believe. Did he say he might try and, no, you gotta wait for the voters to approve before he submits. So he's gonna work on the paperwork to get ready to submit.
Is working on it. though.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I did put in there for the full amount or slightly over, but up to the 115, it was 114 and
Yeah, I saw. what that number was.
and my only suggestion on doing that was because we don't have currently a line. If we had $115,000 contingency or an $80,000 contingency, I'd say let's do it and just run it against that. But because we don't, and tried to explain in there, and if it needs to be worded differently, then just let me know. But try to reassure folks that all but $152 is expected to come in from grant money or federal tax credit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't want folks being
To think that we owe.
discouraged or
Any of
seeing
that.
it differently.
Yeah, is it clear enough that if we don't get the grant from the state, we're not moving forward with the project, right?
Correct.
Is that
Yeah,
clear
but
enough in
I
this?
think
in the-
the,
well, our
vendor
board mo-
said- The vendor said that they would. check
Right,
that.
no, but just the discussion here that's going on the town warrant,
Oh.
whether the language is clear.
I can add that after the sentence about the 152 and 10 cents.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe in that, yeah, but
Yeah.
in warrant
Okay.
information, yeah, because it's
should you been,
Yeah.
should the town be denied, we will not.
it's
proceed.
just as informational. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's a good idea. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right, yeah. All right, awesome. And then lastly, 7, we have the ARPA Local Fiscal Recovery Funds Reappropriation. Any questions, comments, concerns on that? Nope.
That's another one. The explanation is kind of long, but
Mm-hmm.
hopefully does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
It's a request for more of a general because you've only got till the end of this calendar year to appropriate it to something.
Right.
And so I figured if we knew how much the um, improvements to here each were going to be, I mean, for the camera setup, and you'd still have the ability to say, okay, we want to put the rest here, or you can
Right.
motion it in a way that invests entirely in here and access and virtual and physical access to the property.
well, I think you
No,
got,
it makes sense.
I think you got it broad enough.
Okay.
Mhm.
It's good to me.
The only other thing I'd change is, unless you're trying to lose note on the board anymore. At the bottom.
Hey, look, they spelled my name wrong too. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
here,
It's just the first
Yeah,
copy.
yeah, Lou Abbott.
Yeah. We gotta get a little out of there, yeah.
Yeah, probably that would help.
It's the old cut and paste,
Yeah.
copy and paste trick there. Yeah.
It is, 23, template.
Like the old parking lot updates.
Yeah,
Just note the start time of the meeting. It's a little bit later than normal.
6:30, yeah.
That's a half hour earlier than Newcastle will often meet. And so Kevin was proposing that time. Just throwing that out there in case you didn't notice that.
well, I'll be at a basketball game, so
Okay.
I won't be there.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, Newcastle starts late. They start at, theirs at 7.
7.
don't they? There's 7 meetings, yeah.
Yep.
So,
We will be enjoying the sounds of an orchestra that evening as well. There's a concert
Ooh.
going on at the school that evening.
Yeah. we're gonna have live entertainment there for the,
That's in the gym, so we're gonna start jointly in the cafeteria, and the plan would be Newcastle would plan to go to either the library or a classroom, depending on which is closer or more accommodating.
Yeah.
We weren't aware until yesterday that there was an orchestra.
do it in the same room, have a little intermission and have the.
It's possible, just go even a little bit longer is all. Then when we do the school meeting, Newcastle and Damariscotta stay, Bremen usually will leave, but the 2 towns will stay and one goes first and just the other one follows up. But we're gonna lobby kind of back and forth on the first 3 articles and then pause and continue.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. All right. Well, if there is hearing no more questions, comments, concerns for the public hearing, we'll
Just-
close.
Yeah, just suggest when it gets to the agenda item in the regular meeting, if the
Yeah.
board's comfortable with, a motion that might reflect the changes that were proposed. I can then at least work on getting those updated and get your signatures. The holiday week next week,
Yeah.
I can go collect the signatures from you later this week
We can
or early next week, and that'll give us time to post it. It was a little short, a bit of a short window to try and meet again. with the 7 day, because this will be a Tuesday. We meet the Wednesday the
Yeah,
4th, so
yeah.
we'd be late if we waited till then, so.
Yeah.
I can get the signatures from you.
No, if we get it, yeah, we go through and get it approved, but yeah, we can do that, expedite it. And I'm sure we can, I'll be available to get signatures, so. Easy enough. All right, Andy, so we'll close the public hearing, and with that, I'll open the Damariscotta Select Board meeting, November 20th, call to order. We have the whole board here tonight and folks in the audience, so, no, all right. And we'll get started so we can dig right in, folks. We do have some minutes, the October 2nd minutes in front of us.
November.
That's right.
I had a typo
Yeah.
on those.
So did I. Yep, November. There we go. I'm gonna cross it out on there. Yeah,
Sorry if they're a little.
that's okay. It's okay. So November 6 minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the November 6 minutes as written.
Alrighty, thank you, Tom. I have a second?
I'll second.
Oh, got it, Josh. All right.
I'll do it.
Giving it to Josh. Okay, any discussion? No discussion? All those in favor? Passes. All right.
It was November 17th.
And then November, yeah, we don't have that one yet. We'll table the minutes of the 17th. Actually, 17th, 13th, yeah. All right, we'll move on to financials. We have two payroll warrants,
Mhm.
21 and 22.
I'll move payroll warrants 21 and 22.
All right, thank you, Josh. Anybody want to second that?
Sure.
Dan tossed his hand up over there. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Yeah, passes. And then we have accounts payable 23. I'll move AP 23.
Second.
Tom, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Okay,
And I'm
good there.
abstaining.
Yeah, and Josh is gonna abstain. Sorry, I saw your hand go up, but I'm not counting you. Josh is gonna abstain on that one, so.
Do I have to abstain? 'Cause
No,
I'm getting like,
you're fine.
I'm getting like $20 or
It's-
something.
There's times when if we abstained, nothing would get moved, so there's,
No, okay.
yeah, it's
No,
not, you have, Josh is a family member and direct. Two
Oh,
two
so
of
you're-
them, so you're already two in there, so
All
a
right.
little more of a direct issue there, so. It's like we have to approve our own stipend,
Sure.
so it's
Okay.
kind of along that same thing, so, yeah. All right, we do have a correspondence, just an update from Mr. John Roberts, who wears many, many hats in this town,
Mhm.
for the Village of Lights. Yeah. Just a general update he gave us, yeah.
Yeah, he's coordinated with Jason about the road
Mhm.
issues, but the road and traffic concerns that would come up with the parade. And then the only other thing that's in there, is just the use of the sidewalks to put the trees up.
Yeah.
I'll reach out to Randy and Eric and just kind of coordinate with them on being there.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
just give him some heads up, let him know. So-
Any
There you go.
significant snowfall, that's impending. I think they plan to remove them anyways, but anything that's kind of a lighter dusting, will keep out.
That's been a fun
Yep.
Event. It's growing too. You see it every year. I think last year was really, there's a lot of people downtown for it last year.
You're gonna take your truck?
I am, yeah, we'll be in it. So it'd be fun. Andy, any other correspondence come in last minute?
It's all I'm remembering.
Yep, so I don't see anybody on there. Anybody in the audience? All right, I'm moving along. Oh, all right. So we've got Andy's manager report. Take a,
The
nothing exciting's happened in the last couple of weeks. We don't have
parking lots paved and striped. So that's nice
Yeah.
to see. There's they're working to get all the manholes raised for the winter. They aren't at they weren't installed or constructed to the final grade because they didn't want to leave an 1.5 reveal on those surfaces for the winter. So they're gonna do what they call dry stacking those to the elevation they need for the winter. They'll cut around that, raise them, patch around it. And then in the springtime, when they come back, they'll put the finished structure height on there and pave around those. So with the rain coming this week, tomorrow and Friday, right, tomorrow and Friday.
So, yeah,
It's not a significant
something coming.
rain event, but it's again, at least it'll be a chance to kind of just see where things flow and new structures that are there. They'll be working probably through Tuesday next week, just to finish up some of that stuff, clean up the park. They got to dress along the backside of the asphalt they laid on the park side. If you haven't been down to see that, it's
Yeah, what are they?
a bit of an
gonna do?
increase in elevation there
big-
along the park. So they want to make sure they don't lose that gravel underneath that backing of the asphalt there. So they'll kind of dress that, pull the silt sacks in against that for the winter.
Oh, so they'll do that for the winter
Yep.
and then we'll deal with the rest in the spring.
Spring,
Okay.
yeah. So just prompting a few things that we don't want to lose sight of, and try and get back to the contractor probably before the end of January. On at least these 4 items, the delineation for pedestrians through the parking lot wasn't really anything before. There were plans to bring a delineated path through Taco Alley out to the park, which calls for a bumped out curb to land there. And so I think we just take a look at that. The entrance and sidewalk from Water Street was eliminated by the funder when they revised the scope of work.
Yeah.
And then was trying to figure out with the striping back, is there an opportunity to try and delineate some sort of pedestrian walk from Main Street on that western end along Misery Gulch? It's probably maybe a little tight with the extent of the parking spots now, and keeping the boat trailer parking along the
Yeah.
water. But that was just in mind and just something to kind of ponder, think about. Do we want to try and do any of that before it's, permanent?
Mhm.
The parking layout itself, there isn't a specific new striping plan. They put back down pretty close to existing, noting that the spaces dimensions are perhaps a little bit smaller in some places than what would be recommended. There's some handicap parking locations that may be reconsidered, particularly the one along the water. You go about 8 or 10 spots, eight or 10 spots in, and there's a handicap spot, and there was no hashed landing on either side of that.
Yeah.
So we were considering in the spring. Right now, it just didn't get put back in for the winter, but in the springtime, maybe pulling that back to like where the harbor master's parking spot was and just shift them over one.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Little things like
Compliant,
that,
yeah.
just kind of seeing those. The curbing, I think it's worth a conversation about whether you want to have the curbing in front of the guardrail. It would be about a foot, I believe, in front of the guardrail, which will be on the backside of the asphalt. So you'll lose about a foot of the parking area. Its only purpose is to act as a kind of a wheel block and chalk for cars as they're going, but I don't know if that, it's going to be a maintenance thing for us to continue, and it
Yeah.
was
Plowing.
built in here
Plowing.
as a concrete slip form curb.
Right?
Um,
Yeah.
and so I
Even
think,
even that far out, if you're looking like a foot out, even as a curb stop, it's probably not gonna be effective.
Right.
Um,
just pulling spots,
Pull it
and
out
stuff,
further than
but
that,
yeah.
to be a curb stop,
Seems
so
like
it
it
might
would be a
be,
nightmare for the plowing.
might not be necessary, yeah.
So just, I think we can think about that.
Yeah,
And then
sure, we'll
the
get-
park
yeah.
improvements is kind of the big one.
Right.
We know we have to address the increased height now. A good chunk of the park is up at least a few inches.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
close to a foot, I think, on the west end or the east end.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just, we've been talking about how to bring people into the park with a more proper landing where we had that outfall. We can work out over that because that's a permitted activity to do that. And so we can bring some fill there, but we can't just bring in fill across the whole thing. You'd have to raise the rock wall, which because of its steepness already, you're not
Mm.
simply going to be able to just put a row of rocks on top of that. So that becomes a much bigger permitting thing. So I think the plan would be to give a couple ideas and share them with the board, try and engage the community and kind of long-term, what do they want? Do we want grass? Do you want something else? It's a tough place to try and keep grass looking nice. So it just is a reality. If the grass is what's desired, we're just gonna have to budget that every 3 to 5 years, probably to do some significant work to rehab that.
It seems like it's usually what's desired, but the trick is making it last. It doesn't seem to stay green very long, so,
Right.
yeah.
I don't know your thoughts on that, Josh. You work
Yeah.
with that a lot.
Well,
How do we keep the grass alive, Josh?
water,
Yeah. So we did run the sleeve under the parking lot from the bathroom, and it's not hooked to anything. There's no water line in it, but we did run a sleeve under the parking lot in case we did in the future want to run water. So that's a modification we can probably add as a change order before the project's done, if that's a desire. And have Crooker install or someone install the water line and hook it to the bathroom while there's funding available for that.
Yeah.
But we didn't want to not account for it in the future, but until we at least ran the sleeve.
Good, okay.
Is
So-
there an outdoor spigot in the bathroom?
There,
Like, so
yeah,
people
there's
can
one,
water their dogs and stuff? There is, right?
there's a spigot out. Oh, no, it's in the mechanical room.
Oh, okay.
So no, it's not accessible to the public.
So will the really high tides even today get into the park area?
Mhm.
And so how does salt water affect grass?
It's not too nice.
It's not. Okay. It doesn't.
So really, it,
Like it.
Well,
yeah,
it's been
it's
grass there
there.
for,
It's been grassed in
For years.
multiple different times.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's been
Some
grass
have been
there.
sawed and some's been seeded and
Yeah.
there and it.
What-
it-
Astro, are we ready for
it
Astro?
has some dog visitors and
Do we really need?
It's a lot of.
There's those water things there.
Hmm. All those pavers, yeah.
easiest at this point.
So I think, give it some thought and reach out to some folks and just kind of get a
Sure.
good sense and a good opportunity, maybe just to bring some folk, the community in and talk about it. But we have some time, but should determine some of these before the end of January,
Yeah,
I'd say.
keep it on the radar. So this is an ongoing discussion that we don't
Should we
want to.
try to make a meeting to gather people to see what they,
I am probably gonna try and have, just a meeting with probably that same stakeholder group that I'd reached out to back in the summer before we started,
okay,
just to, let folks share what worked, what didn't work, how could we have done things differently or better.
I think
Um,
people are very interested in what we're going to do there.
Mhm.
So we probably should try to have something so that we can at least get the voices.
Yeah. Beyond having them come, advertising for a regular board meeting,
Um,
would that work?
well, what do you
We
think?
can do something, give us some thought.
Um,
Yeah.
I think we should have a.
Depends on the
separate part-
scope of it too. I
I
mean,
think
what,
we should-
budget wise, we're within, I mean, we don't, it's not like we have a huge budget to work with.
No, but that's why
Parts.
if we bring the people in and they want something different, then
Yeah, I mean, right now the budget is looking like we'll be able to do some minor improvements to the park. So if you
Right.
wanted to say resod it, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah.
Minor, what we likely can't do is build out a pier.
Yeah.
I know was
I'm-
at one point talked about.
Yeah, I'm
We
going
don't have
back
that
to
kind
like,
of money.
yeah, the
but-
vision of the original planning when it first started, there's a lot going on there. We
Yeah.
can't go down that
Right,
road again.
right.
So we need
Yeah.
to, so I mentioned, yeah, it's
So-
minor improvements. We.
Oh,
Regardless of
Then,
the improvements, they're gonna bring it the level up, smooth level, they're not gonna do that at all.
It's
Not
just
with the
gonna,
park.
it's just gonna have to
No.
slope, you're gonna have to slope it down to the existing.
Mhm.
And then the best thing you probably could do is kind of grub it back up and lay some sod and put irrigation system in.
No, but I'm saying there's
Do
piles of dirt
aerating
there now for the
constantly.
winter, though, they're gonna bring
No,
that,
yeah,
they're gonna
we'll-
smooth that.
Yeah, the asphalt and such that they laid
Yeah,
there,
I don't
that'll
think
get
there's
removed.
much
Yeah.
material.
Yeah, all
in
that
riprap
material in there
and
and
whatnot for it to
equipment
grow.
will go.
and, Yeah, so.
But
okay.
it would look good for a year or two.
It would look good for a year or two.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
provide just a little update on the personal property.
Yeah.
Just using like Google Street View and what we know, what we think we know is in town for businesses, just a kind of a snapshot of what our database has for personal property accounts and what I think it's missing. And this doesn't account for independent contractors who are based out of their home. This is just those that have signs up out front.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of exceptions to personal property and statute, and so it'd be a matter of kind of getting the spreadsheet I have to the assessors to kind of take a look at and see who might not be or who is exempt. But at the moment, there's about 150 to 180 that I believe aren't being taxed that should be. I mean, they're like other businesses that are taxed.
Yeah.
That's
So
something I
you have
think,
the list and you looked at them and they say, you feel they're comparable to the ones that are taxed?
and I did that only because the reval, I'm trying to get an RFP together for that. There was a question about, do we include personal property while we're doing the reval? Do we just do real estate? And when Rob was here, he thought that our personal property system was in pretty good shape. And I'm not saying it's not. But there's two pieces to that. Is everyone have an account that should? And then within that, with the assessments, just like with real estate, are the values equitable to, between the grocery stores or between car garages, and are we capturing all of what we're supposed to? This works only in trusting and relying on the businesses to return their forms, the
Yeah, it's just self-reporting.
forms.
So to make sure I understand what's going on here. So the not assessed is your estimate of what we're not saying. So,
Mhm.
so maybe 40, somewhere around 40% of, we're missing 40% of the potential value. What is that? I don't have the ability to do calculation right here.
Mhm.
What does that translate into tax revenue?
That's really hard. I mean, because, at least with real estate, you can kind of identify land value is worth this per
Yeah.
acre, or in this part of town, it's worth this per acre, and on the water is, and so this is a really hard one, I think, to try and estimate. We got one account in here that accounts of the taxable personal property value. We have one account in town that accounts for 20%.
Yeah.
And so it's a little hard. I mean, right now for me to, if I had to guess, I'm assuming we're talking probably between $3 to $5 million. And that's just on what isn't currently being assessed. I think if they did a reval on it, I feel like you might find the overall taxable value changes considerably when we have.
So let's say there's $5 million in value that's unaccounted for. And what does that translate into actually revenue?
So if you times that by our mill rate, you're upwards of. Try and do that and fumble it.
Yeah. I'm gonna let you fumble it. My brain is broken.
Um,
45, 30,000.
yeah, almost 100
100,000.
at today's mill rate of 18.5.
And how much would it cost to reassess? What would it cost?
Well, I don't know.
It's not gonna be 100,000.
I'm more familiar with the real estate,
Yeah.
in the benchmarks about 115 to 125 per developed parcel on the revals. And that's not assuming we're going through every home and counting every bathroom and right, and all of that. It's just looking at the property and do the tax cards and sketches reflect what's on the ground, looking at square foot and footprint built.
All right. So if we're missing 100,000 and we only do it maybe every 10 years or something. So that's
$1 million.
$1 million. So that's probably worth it.
Yeah, and to me, it seems like an equity thing. When we have, some towns don't have nearly as much commercial activity as others, and they rely only on the people that self-report, and that might be like leasing companies that have equipment in
Yeah.
places. Those automatically send it,
Yeah.
and that's what gets put in. For a place like us, even though we're a small service center, we have a lot of commercial activity. When you have nearly 40% not being taxed, it's like, what does that mean for the other 60?
Yeah.
Real estate taxation, I bet we don't have everything. We're probably 99.9%.
Well, this is one of the, I don't want to say benefits of being a service center. It is that this helps pay for this extra services that we need. Lease and these things.
Right, yeah. The revenue source.
Right.
So there's both the shorter term and the more with the reval question. On the shorter term, I've got to figure out with the assessor's agent, what's our plan to get to that number of accounts before next tax year. Because they exist today and should be treated like all the other businesses.
Right.
So working on that with them, just giving you the update.
I'm just curious, because we haven't talked about this the last couple of years. How did this come about that you focused on this and found these numbers? Where'd you get the data?
So the reason it came up is because of the reval process and seeing the one I was working off of included personal property. That was a question that was raised. Secondly, we just know in the office that there's accounts that have changed ownership or are deleted or weren't in there to begin with. And so it was just a matter of kind of one by one, kind of as they come up, asking the question, and well, why doesn't this one have a bill? When that business.
So
across the street does.
Dan mentioned 10 years, but it hasn't been 10 years that we've looked at this, right?
Nope, it's been almost 20.
Okay.
I think a lot of our photos are from 04, so I'm guessing that the data went in place in like 05 for the last reval.
Yeah.
No, it's gonna pay for the Christmas party for sure.
How I got those was literally just in the mornings there when it was quiet in the house, just going through Google Street View. And that was a 2023
work.
2023 update. So the maps are pretty current, and then it's
Yeah.
a matter of knowing what's around and going around in a couple of spots and verifying, but
Good work.
Yeah, it adds up, doesn't it? Businesses.
Yeah, for comp plan implementation, not trying to get cart before the horse, but there's obviously a lot of work that's gone into that, and don't want to lose sight of, already of, some point a comp plan will be approved, and it could be as early as December 10th. So in that vein, with budget season coming up, just throwing out the possibility of how do we kind of staff that work so we keep that moving. And there's a couple of fellowships and internship type things that have come across our emails recently. One I think might be more in line in allowing this someone to work with this. That's the Island Fellowship, the AmeriCorps Shore Corps. It's a little more hyper focused on parts of the comp plan, but maybe not so broadly. So I think there's two options that we could look at. Both have pretty low cost to the host site. I think one of them is $14,000 and you get 30 hours a week, for for the year, over a year. And it's expected to be a 2-year kind of fellowship placement. The other one was expected for 1 year, and I don't know what the outlay is for that position, but that one I think was also a full-time 40-hour expected position. So it'd be an opportunity to try and get someone in, full-time for a considerable
That'd be
less
great.
money.
Okay.
And that would, help, Michael, me, and anyone else that's kind of tasked with getting this thing up and running.
Mhm.
So it's just something we got to talk through and figure out, can we bring that on, but through either of those programs, bring someone on and support them in doing that for the community.
Looking at the one you sent out, not to complete this thing, but there's an awful lot that the select board is responsible for, including some budgetary items that we're gonna have to take into consideration going into next year that we weren't talking about. Setting aside funds for housing and things like that. So we were talking earlier, we're gonna need a system or spreadsheet or something to pull out all those select board responsibilities and track those. Otherwise, we're gonna lose track of it. Nothing's gonna get done. There's an awful lot in there for the select board to
There's a
do.
lot in there. Yeah, no.
Yeah, one of the
Point.
proposals in the comp plan too is to have a implementation group, and I think it'll be a volunteer group from the community, but they should be helpful too in terms of tracking. And I know that there's a number of people that are very anxious to help out with that. So.
Well, there are an awful lot of other groups that have responsibilities. We as a group have to manage our own little set of tasks. I mean, otherwise we're gonna just lose track of them.
Yeah, I see the role for the committee as it needs to be further defined and agreed, and then get people appointed and involved, but acknowledging too, like it's gonna take some dedicated staff commitment, even if it's just helping pull the meeting together and be available, and if we are able to identify software that would help create a virtual like dashboard for the community to see and track and see how we're doing and implementing it, and then help us on our end. And to Tom's point, and keeping organized, and I mean, we can certainly do it through a spreadsheet and create the Gantt charts. It'd be a very large spreadsheet, and creating dashboards on our own manually might be, certainly more than I don't speak for Michael, but it'll take a lot of time to do that. Where there is software out there that can help do that, and we did look at it, and there is a budget for trying to buy into something. And we'll look for grant offsets as well. I think there's a couple of grants out there that can help do capacity building, that can help us get this off the ground. So. Did interview someone for code officer, plumbing inspector today. Mike and I expect to follow up on that soon.
Daryl, with your expertise, have you participated in the interviews?
No, I'm not.
Capital budget review.
Out of it.
Just as part of the budget process, sometimes that is at the end of the operating budget in the month or 2-month part of the 2-month review of budgeting. I don't know if you want to try and pull that forward and kind of highlight that and dive into some of that a little bit deeper. I mean, that's a $630,000 appropriation this year for capital funds. There's a lot that's behind that, a lot of different reserve accounts. I did provide a kind of lengthy spreadsheet last year trying to identify infrastructure and equipment and that kind of thing. And so I don't know if you want to spend a little bit more time, or, we can probably do that even in January.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
again, just to beat the drum again, incorporate the items that are in for next year for the select board and the planning, comprehensive plan.
So at least if we can kind of get them on the radar, then have the discussion about what we can or what we feel we can or can't do, or.
Yeah, and I mean, the comp plan is supposedly a document that has a sightline of 10 years, so you don't have to do it all in year one. so-
Right.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
County funding, the proposal we put in for supporting some housing work is to do a feasibility kind of analysis on, or to identify a parcel for development or redevelopment in the name of workforce and affordable housing, try and take on some of that pre-development cost of the site work, or not site work, but planning, engineering, if there's wetland that needs to be mapped out, that kind of work, and then try and get that approved through the local permitting process, so that at the end of that 2-year period we have to spend this, that hopefully there's a product there that the property owner or the town potentially, if we're going to need to enter into some sort of purchase option on a property to do this work, at least then you have something to go with, that here's the roadmap to proceed. Here's what we know the community would support through the process we're going to go through. Not again suggesting that the town's going to build and manage housing. It's just an opportunity to try and lower some of this pre-development cost for someone who would otherwise come in and maybe do that. And so all of what was part of that part of the proposal, the other part of the proposal was for preliminary engineering for water and sewer extensions. So they didn't fund the full amount we had requested. But what it is $230,000 that would go towards, and 50,000 of that specifically was kind of earmarked to find, even if it was just one road of the roads we proposed, or if it's the parcel we end up looking at already has water and sewer, we could look beyond that. They were okay with that idea. And so it's, a good amount of money to be able to try and work towards identifying a solution there, for as small as it might
That
be,
definitely helps. Yeah.
some housing
Good.
options.
Mhm.
And then just noting there was a river cleanup on November 1st. Happened to see it just on Facebook from one of the local aquaculture farms, and some of you might have been aware of that. It is something that happens annually. Just identifying that. I don't know if Heather was involved in that. I see Darling Marine was noted as a partner in that.
Just gonna ask you about that. I saw Heather in the
Yeah,
corner
but
there.
there's, some businesses in town and organizations in town and around that supported that, and a lot of the aquaculture businesses and farms were involved in doing that. So,
They find anything good?
I don't know.
Green grab.
Lot of crabs, yeah.
Empty beer cans.
Yeah.
The Rotary guys. Maybe
Awesome.
they left them, I don't know.
Thank you, Andy. Any other questions for Andy on his report? No. Parking lot's looking good. Yeah. Nice to drive out there now, and it's smooth. Yeah. All right. I did get a little ahead of ourselves. I know we kind of skipped over it on Andy's report, but the local health officer. So we do have somebody that Andy's vetted. And if it's okay with the board, I'd like to add that into official action items to make that appointment if nobody objects. So I'll add that into 6 on here. And we'll get to that shortly. So, all right. Well, let's move through some business here. We do have a vending application to consider. This is for, is it Wait Still, Reese? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it looks like, yeah.
So it's,
Products are out there. They're nice.
there, where it is, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've seen them? Yeah.
They're right in front of Elaine's.
Yeah, that's what I said. The
Yeah.
address is right over there. So cool. Yep. So yeah, I don't think there's much more we need to do for betting on that one, right?
No, it's
They're all
another
set.
reminder, we need to still
I know.
go through the vending ordinance. But
Yep.
While we
It's one of
have-
those ones where
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
there, but it
the,
really isn't there.
it's there, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. So we'll move that along. I'll make a motion to approve the vending ordinance for Wait Still wreaths as presented here. I think everything is good. Yeah. So,
FYI, the Chamber of Commerce is putting together a checklist of available Christmas tree farms, because some of the providers in the past are no longer doing it, so.
Oh, gotcha.
they'll be
Okay.
I think it'll be put in the paper.
Oh, Cool.
But do
cool,
they
cool,
have
okay.
their 100 trees?
Let me,
What's that?
let me get this one finished up. Andrew, you
Yeah,
seconded
yeah,
the
right.
motion, right? So let's get that out of the way.
As far as
Um,
Washington, looked around the whole area up to Washington as far as you're gonna go. Go ahead.
All those in favor?
Oh.
Okay, yeah, just to get the motion out of the way. So we were listening, Tom, but yeah. So, yeah, they're getting something together for the trees. No, no. Awesome. All right. And we have a cemetery deed. Oh, I'd like to move this one if I could. Oh. Yeah, so, I'll make a motion to, move the cemetery deed and the cemetery perpetual care and maintenance contract for Dan Pendleton.
Mhm.
And, all right, Andrew's gonna second that. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? All right, that's everybody. John Deere tractor lease.
The
Alright.
last meeting, you had authorized the purchase of, it was presented, I believe, with an 84-month term.
Mm-hmm.
I had to fill out the credit application to send that in. When that came back as approved, there were 3 term options. Either 60-month, 72-month, or 84-month. The 84-month does require an additional cash down payment. And then there'd be an annual payment of about $5,800. If you wanted to do it in 60 months, it'd still be 0%. It'd be about $9,000 a year. The 72-month for some reason came with a 5% interest rate. So that one's
Yeah,
not
no,
one
it's
we
right in the middle.
recommend.
Yeah.
So I mean, I suggest maybe the 60-month.
Yeah.
Just given it's a
Yep.
tractor, it's a small, tractor like that. You should still get a few more years out of it. If you do the 84 months, should still get some time out of it after that, but it's also like you might just be paying it off.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
recommend the 60 if that's something.
Done your homework. It looks good for me. So,
Okay.
I'll make a motion to move to authorize the town manager to agree to the 16-month term.
Second.
awesome. Tom seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right, that one. And while we're talking about tractors, highway equipment, we have the wheel loader. Yeah, the old Whacker Newsom's not doing too well.
No, so that
She's tired.
that one
Tired.
provided a memo there. The wheeled loader, the Whacker Newsom that we have that we rely on for just about everything we have to do to move. Went in for just some kind of preventative, I'd say, service. John noticed that there was a lot of play in the ram that drives the ability to lift the bucket up on the front there and all the attachments. So they wear out over time, especially if you don't grease them as often as you should have, and that'll end up wearing out seals. And so he just noticed there was a little bit of play in that. And so we should get that up there before winter happens and we need it. And so when we took it up there, knowing that a belt had broken, which happens from time to time, and he saw that there was leaking from some of the injectors. He didn't know exactly what was causing that. And then thought there was a broken motor mount. They did a quick walk around, gave us an estimate, and it didn't include some of the things that we set it up there for. And that original quote I had included in here was almost $16,000. He went up there yesterday to take a look at one of the quoted machines in the packet here. What we're looking at is a 2016. It's got almost 4,000 hours on it. On our replacement, our capital plan, I was expecting 10 to 12 years on a machine like that. Well-maintained machine. Just it's not making a lot of sense to me to suggest that we put $16,000 or more into this machine if we're only going to expect to keep it for 2 to 3 more years. What's the resale value on that machine at that point? I did ask
Math out, if we round it up to 16 to 20 grand for 2 years, it doesn't,
Right.
it's not a good return on investment.
And the track history has not been good.
right.
Yeah.
We've spent a lot of money the last 2 years on this thing.
Yeah, I didn't include him, I don't think, in here. Started to look at what we spent in the last couple of years beyond like the regular annual service that we do for it. It wasn't as bad as I was thinking, but I think we did in the last 3 years. I looked, we were close to $9,000, I think, on that non-routine work.
Mhm.
And it's just, it's aged, it's, say it's been abused, but it's, it works in the winter and there's salt and other things that interact with it. It's got a lot of rust on it and
It's been
points that you
it's
don't
been the
want to
only
have it.
machine, so it's been,
the big expense in the quote was in the diesel particulate filter. That alone was almost half of the quoted price.
Yeah.
And that's something we can't bypass. I'm not going to suggest we bypass as a municipality.
You
Since
can't,
we're in
yeah.
there as emission standards by law.
A special statute there, kind of thing.
You owned it
Yeah.
privately and want to keep it on your property, you might choose to do something different, but we can't bypass that. So that leaves us with, we could invest in the repairs. And I'm trying to identify or project what I think the price is on that table there. I said sale and purchase price 22.5. When John asked him about a trade-in value yesterday, could that just be added to the quote? I think he had suggested that, well, maybe $5,000 was a good purchase price. And they said, that's better than we're gonna offer. So, and they don't even see it as something, even if we put the
No, machine
repairs
that-
into it, they don't think we'd even get that at a resale. They said a machine of that age, low hours, they just saw sell for about 30. But it had way less hours than ours does. Not that ours isn't still something someone could use, but it's just not something they would see go for a lot.
Yeah.
And so I don't think even if we put the money into it on the repairs, that we're gonna really see the return that we'd expect in a machine that we're gonna continue to have to use. The pricing of new machines, they do have a size smaller. They don't make the WL32 anymore. Wacker Neuson does make a 28. It runs the same specs that the 32 of 2016 did. John feels good about it being able to perform the way we need it to and still fit on the sidewalks and do all of the work we expect it to. Giant is a different brand. Don't see a lot of in this part of Maine, maybe more in southern Maine. They have a dealer in New Hampshire. That's solely based on spec. That's all we were trying to find is a machine like ours. You can see the purchase prices there. That's a financed price. There's some discounts I noted below on the next page there. If you paid in cash, it was almost $12,000 less for the Giant. If you pay in cash for the Wacker Neuson, it's 85 instead of 92,000. So a $7,000 discount for not financing it. The financing terms are 0%. We have been contributing to the equipment reserve. And so I kind of see that between the Wacker Neuson and the tractor. I think our contribution to the reserve this year was about 30,000, 25,000. And so I think it'd be about $5,000 more than what we contributed this year to continue funding the reserve. There's still a balance. I think I'm estimating about a $50,000 balance in the reserve. And we can keep contributing to 25 or 30,000, still have something to work off of in case something else has to get replaced in that time frame. So I feel like with the 0%, it's just a matter of deciding whether the board feels that it should be replaced altogether or just repaired.
I think it's a waste of money to repair it. If we're gonna go forward and just keep putting that much money into it
You
every
have to
year.
ask Public Works here what they.
I think I would have got rid of it last year. It's
time to move it.
it was down pretty much most of last winter.
Mhm.
So that's why we purchased this John Deere was
Yeah.
to have backup, but we're only gonna continue to have more sidewalks. And we're
Mhm.
gonna add, and this thing is not reliable. So
Well, I
You
think
do.
that's probably it. If it's not reliable, then.
It's time to move it along.
We have to have something that works.
Yep, especially if, we've got two people and we need two machines or at least try to get through it. But, I think this would get us on these two machines that we're getting would keep us going for a while.
Yeah.
As long as we take care of them and treat them like they're our own. So,
So you're suggesting pay it out over 5 years and not take the cash discount? Because there is an applied interest rate there. If you.
There is, but we don't have the cash balance to pay for
Yeah.
cash today. So I think your only option is to finance. And you see it for the machine from Central Equipment, the Wacker Neuson, it'd be 18,400 down, and then annual payments, 4 more payments of 18,400. So they want you to make that first year payment up front.
Yeah.
Which again, we have the balance to be able to do that.
Yeah, you can do the payment. Yeah.
The,
Which is what, about less than what we're gonna put into this other one.
Mhm.
right.
All right.
Yep, Giant did offer, I got up in there a rental quote, when I first learned about what we had to put in, I said, we gotta at least see if we can rent
Yeah,
something
I
for
saw
the
that,
winter. We
yeah.
still need something else to support. Can't just run that small tractor front for everything, so. They were the only ones I could find that had something to rent. We can't run a skid steer because they're typically too wide. You can get some narrower ones, but they're not as common to find. So if we went with the Giant, we could rent for 5 months, $15,000. And then if we chose to buy, he said most of that rental fee that we paid could go towards the purchase price. But again, the machine costs a little more. It is worth noting that, for another $14,000, 6,000 of it is the snow blade, the plow blade that comes with it. The Whacker Newson isn't priced to have a blade. It's something we might choose down the road to get. There's a blade on the small sidewalk tractor that we're getting. But the Giant didn't come with 2 sets of tires. The Whacker Newson is priced with 2 sets of tires. In the wintertime, we take off the wider ones. Because we need whatever we can in the narrowness to fit on the sidewalks. And so, that's what we have now is 2 sets. So there'd be even an additional cost on top of the 106 to get the other set of tires as well. So, between the engine swap out on this version of the Whacker, and everything we know about it, it is a closer service, even as far away as it is compared to the Giant. So we felt
Yeah.
pretty good about recommending purchasing the Whacker Newson going forward.
Sounds good to me.
And the other one we can put out to bid.
Yep.
Then apply that back to the
Yeah.
Reserve.
we move it
capital
back
reserve
in.
account.
Yeah.
So
But we're not
Motion?
thinking we can get more.
Sure.
Need a motion?
You want it down?
Never know.
Go ahead, Dan.
Sure. So I'll move to waive I'm gonna use the possible motion here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sounds good to
move,
me.
move to
That's
waive the
very
bid
well.
procedure in lieu of the quotes we have to obtain and to purchase the WL 28 from Central Equipment Company and move to appropriate the first year payment from the Highway Equipment Reserve.
I'll second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Dan, you just bought yourself a Whacker Newson. Beautiful.
Well, you can make it up here now, right?
That's right. We can come pick you up, man.
It's
Yeah,
true.
that's so wise.
I need a ride home. You can just.
Get your reflector jacket, right?
Yeah, that machine's getting tired, so it's time, so. Awesome, okay, and yeah, the 5 here, so we have the warrants to consider, so we had a discussion earlier. A couple of suggestions.
Yep.
And he's got them jotted down, I'm sure, so.
I do, yeah, the
Talked about
change to the
7 and then,
on Article 6, changing the comp plan as presented to the planning board on November 18th, not the select board
yeah,
today.
that's fine, yeah.
And then Article 7, adding the sentence about the charging stations if the grant isn't awarded, that we wouldn't be proceeding that.
Yeah, just,
The funds needed from fund balance would be all but $152.10 is expected to be reimbursed. If the grant fund comes forward and the tax credit when the tax credit is received. And then correcting the names.
yep. Does that sound correct, everybody? I think that's all we
Yeah.
have, so, okay.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion to approve the town warrant for a special town meeting December 10th, with the changes as noted by Andrew Dorr.
Second.
Good. 1 seconds. Any other discussion?
I see, Heather, you want to add it? Okay.
I was gonna ask. I saw her back in the corner back there. I've been calling on people, but nobody wants to come up, Heather, so, yeah.
So
All right. Do we do a vote on that?
we haven't, but we're going
All
to.
right, all those in favor? Yeah. Pretty good there. Okay, so, and one more addition to official action items. So we have this looks like this, a person's actually qualified to be the local health officer.
Oh, I thought you were.
I was appointed. I'm not qualified. Yeah,
What are you gonna do with all the Band-Aids?
put a Band-Aid on it. Actually, yeah, I come from the rub dirt in at school. That's not probably gonna fly.
You
so-
want to resign your position first?
I don't know. I've never had to.
Huh?
Yeah. I would have to
You gotta
officially
resign before we
resign.
can appoint.
Always fight over the large stipend that comes with it.
Oh, there is that. So, yes, so. Andy's spoken to Dan,
Yeah.
Mr. Dan Gibbons. I don't think, I
Yeah,
don't
Mr.
know him
Gibbons
personally.
had reached out
Yeah.
sometime this summer, I think in August, about the same time Dan had reached out with a different name for Daryl to possibly
Yeah,
connect with.
yeah, we tried to follow another
Um,
route. Didn't- So,
So I
worked
was
out well.
initially I'm like, wait a minute, we had nobody, now we have two, okay. And so he kept reaching out every once in a while to see, we tried to, schedules couldn't meet, align, and then I think we met up in October. Everything seemed to go well. He was interested. He lives in town, just trying to find a way to get involved since he moved here and works both at this hospital and up at Penn Bay. Was totally read the manual and felt totally fine with what it required. and
Yeah. So he's in the healthcare field,
He is.
as I am not.
In
But
administration.
you did a great job while you were in there.
Yeah, we can do with all the extra time.
What was
How
his
many
background
bands
in
did
that?
you say?
Oh, several,
He's
several.
not-
RN.
Are
All right.
primarily.
So he was an RN, so he's qualified,
Right.
unlike you.
So I will need to officially resign. I've never had to officially resign from something, resign from the position. So I'll know that I officially resigned.
Were you acting or?
Second.
No, I was appointed. I mean, officially resigned from the position. And I would like to make a motion to appoint Dan Gibbons as the local health officer for the local health officer for Damariscotta, effective immediately.
That's okay.
Officer.
Might need a speech therapist today. Daryl.
Maybe. Can I have a second on that?
Sure.
He's fighting over it.
No,
I
that's
heard
right. Go
Dan
ahead.
over here. All right, Dan seconds. All those in favor?
But we gotta accept your resignation
Okay.
first too.
Oh, no, I resigned. I'm out.
Just to
so.
cover us, I'll make a motion to accept Daryl's resignation as
Well, I think we
health
ought to hear
officer.
about.
All right, Josh made a motion. Somebody's gonna second it.
We need to hear about your outgoing speech of all the things you've done.
Well, I'll do it in discussion. So Andrea seconds. Is any discussion? I said, okay, it was an honor to serve the town of Damariscotta as your interim local health officer for the last year, even though I'm woefully unqualified.
All
And
right.
I
we
really
gotta-
didn't do anything.
We ought to vote on
Yeah,
that.
all those in favor? Okay, there. All right, everybody voted? Dan vote? Yeah, I'm out. I'm out. All right. Don't come to me with a
Oh,
cuts and scrapes.
you're gonna have to put that on your resume. And so resigned as health officer.
I will. I'll have to. So, all right. And so that's it for action items. So we can, we have a review for the Philbrook Fund policy. You want to go over that with?
Sure. So the family had left a balance for a trust fund to support the residents of Damariscotta, what they deemed the worthy poor. It was it. And so the select board, from what I can tell, there was a committee of sorts at one point, or a group of people anyways, that had kind of drafted a policy, some recommendations for the select board to enact. And so there was some guidance on how the funds would be administered. The last close to copy of what I could find for that was from April of 2001. Without perusing all of the non-digital minutes of the board. I don't know if Josh, if you remember having really talked about it.
We
really
talked,
since
we've
then.
talked about it numerous times,
We
but I
have.
don't think we ever, over the years, we've ever really
Changed it.
revamped anything other than just the trying to deal with the mid-coast community action.
Yep. Yeah, and that was in 2014. The town had started a relationship with Midcoast Maine Community Action, our regional CAP agency, to administer the funds. They were already working with residents from Damariscotta to help with LIHEAP and housing assistance. And however that transpired, I think part of that was probably Dick, I imagine, was on the board then still.
Yeah, it just flowed
Yep.
into that, so it worked well. So
They do that at no cost. In the way it worked every quarter, we were basically sending them some money to make sure they had a balance to administer the funds.
What's the balance then?
Just over 50,000.
50,000?
Yeah.
Get out. It's gonna be more than that.
That's what
Nope.
they hold.
That's what they.
Oh, no, I know. What's the balance of the fund?
Oh, I don't remember. What we're supposed to be doing was working off of a certain amount of interest each year that's earned. I
Yeah.
didn't think
On
I pulled
average, they've
that.
been spending they're handing out 8,000 a year, so 50,000.
Right. And so
Add to it.
I had seen what they had of ours in their possession to be able to administer. And I mentioned last year to Cheryl, I was like, well, let's meet with them. Let's hold off on sending any more because we were sending 5,000 a quarter now, 20,000 a year for them to be able to do this. And I said, I'd rather just keep it in our account and let it earn interest for us. They have a healthy balance to be able to administer the funds. If they start using it, more frequently, by all means, we can make sure the
Yeah,
money gets
yeah.
there to them. But so that attempted to have that meeting last winter, and scheduled, and weather or something happened, we weren't able to meet, and it just kind of forgot about it for a while. There were a couple of requests that came into them that prompted us to say, we should check back in on this. And so we met a couple weeks ago. Cheryl and I met with 3 other staff people, including the director. Brought up the old policy. It was helpful for a couple of them. There were a couple of things that we kind of zeroed in on. One of the requests that we had been inquired about was the home improvement. There was a person in town that it's not their primary residence. One of the challenges is that it needs a new heating system in order for them to live there full time. They had another situation that they were able to have housing elsewhere. And so it just kind of prompted the question about if we invest those funds into someone's home repairs, and it's a sizable capital improvement, is that something we should, some sort of non-foreclosable lien? There's just other questions that kind of came up about how should the funds be used? This policy, again, if it was written in 2001, should probably be reviewed and make sure the needs identified then are still reflective of current needs, and just kind of help guide, make sure that they're offering the funds to folks in the way that the board feels, is most needed.
Yeah, 2 questions. So they hold 55,000 or so in funds. What do we hold as part of the?
I
Philbrook
didn't
funds?
think to look. I need to pull that. That's what
Because I noticed the investment policy, I don't know, I assume we're following it.
Yeah.
it's right.
Prudent man rule.
Was, 60% bonds, 40% stocks, and I get it. So you would think over that 20-year period, and probably has done pretty well.
So yeah,
Yeah, but they were talking 8 to 10% yield. You're not gonna get that out of
Yeah.
that kind of a portfolio.
Right.
The the cemetery trust funds, the Philbrook trust funds, and there was, I think, 1 or maybe even 2 others that are with HM Payson.
Okay.
Everything else is in the general fund at Bangor. So I just need to
Okay.
pull that last report from them, and I can get back in touch with you guys about that.
Yeah, did you get these stats from them, or did you have these stats?
They did provide us with all of the credits and debits that they've had come through them since 2014. And so I just
I wonder if they have it by
kind of
year.
summarized that.
Yeah.
They do
You have it by year? Like this.
see how much has gone out each year.
Yeah. Well, also to see if they have it broken down like this, to see if the needs are changing
Mhm.
over time. What are people using it for now? As opposed to 10 years,
Oh, I
ago,
see.
20
Yeah.
years ago. The other thing is, I think we ought to have them continue to do the administrative part of it, the filling out of the applications, whatever, because they're doing it for free, and if we had to do it, we'd have to charge somebody who's already overworked to do it. And then, lastly, I think we ought to ask them to come to us with requests that over either a certain dollar amount or that are not like emergency requests where somebody needs to have immediate action, but maybe after the fact, just report to you, and then you can bring it to the board when you think it's appropriate. But I think we ought to just have you and them communicate as to the needs and how they're applying them, and then you can bring it to us if you think it's relevant.
Is that what we do now?
No.
They're supposed to in the policy.
The
it says
policy
Anything over
$1,000.
$1,000.
Yeah, the policy suggests that that's what they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not been happening.
Yeah, town manager and general assistance officer authority up to.
In the last couple of years, there were a couple that we saw that were above that threshold that we should have been contacted on prior to.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
I think there was over this time frame, maybe 2 that today we're not, Cheryl wasn't sure if they were a resident at the time of Damariscotta. But otherwise there was no major like real red flags on it. So it's just a matter of kind of checking back in on the agreement and the policy and just
Yeah,
making sure.
so I'm just curious too, how does general assistance and the Philbrook fund work together? So when somebody comes in here, for example,
Mhm.
we say, do we let them know that there's also this Philbrook Fund? If
Some people will
Or
come in
vice
knowing
versa.
it exists, and we'll encourage them first to start with a GA application. There's things, going through that process that, there is a income requirement still for this.
Yeah.
That gets considered. And so some of the information we don't, would come out from filling out the GA. There's other programs that they become aware of through the GA application that would be helpful. For those that just don't qualify for GA, some of these things that we can cover in here, just you wouldn't cover through GA. And so we still have them start with that. That also proves residency. It gets you the information you need to prove where they are. And so that's usually what we'll do. If they go to Midcoast Maine Community Action first, they're still going to say, have you filled out a GA application with the town? So that process is in play. But sadly, the GA program is just not going to cover everything someone's going to need or a family's going to need for a month. It helps, but
Yeah.
they play together that, both are available. But again, some of the stuff in here, you're not going to get from GA, things like helping with doctors, doctor's bills, or there seemed like a
Braces.
pretty strong
Braces.
emphasis on dental work.
Yeah.
You're not going to get too much in home repairs really done. You're not going to likely get auto repair bills paid through GA. That's a really hard one
Yeah.
to get the state to approve. So it does supplement and go well beyond, and the whole idea that was laid out in this policy was to be able to fund the needs of people that are long-term solutions. And so it was an opportunity to work, they can work with folks on budgeting and say like, but how are you going to be able to make it work next month?
Yeah.
And so it's not meant to cover gaps month to month. It's to help with, my car broke down. I can't get to work. I don't have $2,000 in my account to get it paid. Can you help?
Yeah.
That's what they've done on a few occasions.
Is that sort of financial counseling part of the requirement for receiving money from this?
I don't think as a policy it is.
Yeah.
So
And because we also have these community navigators now, right?
Yeah,
In
well, that-
town. So how does that?
They're
Sort of-
connected. They know about it.
So the navigators know that, so it's Damariscotta and Waldeboro that have Philbrook trust funds, same family. And so if anyone's from either of those two towns and goes to the staff at the Y through the
Mm.
navigator program, they'll know that, great, there's another layer there, another place to access support. And they will check in with Cheryl, and a lot of times and just confirm things where they live. Have they applied for GA is one of the resources they might access. But they have, I think, are growing a wider range of resources for people.
Yeah.
And I think the county, my understanding is the county intends to continue to fund that beyond the ARPA allocations they've gotten, to kind of stand this up.
Mhm.
There's been a lot of support from people that have used this that I think they see it as a good thing, and they want to find a way to keep funding that through the county.
So in terms of getting some of this documentation, I mean, it's up to January 21. You're gonna meet with them again and look at this and come back with a change or recommendation? Like this
On the MOU, the agreement between us and them. Yeah, so I think part of it was just to kind of share this with you guys and then make sure, one, that we feel that the relationship is working well. They want to continue that. And if so, I didn't want to redraft that agreement without reviewing the policy.
Yeah.
So if we need to make changes to the policy, then we're going to continue to operate under, the previous agreement. Nothing's changed there other than we're not dispersing the funds right now to them because they have a balance to work with. So it's up to you if you want to get the policy or the MOU back in place under the current language and then tackle the policy. Or if you want to review the policy, make any changes to that potentially, and then redraft the MOU based on that.
I think you want to look at the policy and then,
Yeah, I think we need another meeting. We bring up, let us study it for another meeting. We'll come back here for change. Suggestions. We talked about this term worthy poor in the past. Where is that needed? Do we still need that around? I mean,
That's how the family worded it in their bequeath to the town, was it's to support and support the worthy poor of Damariscotta. So, I mean, we just call it the Philbrook Fund.
okay, all right.
But that was that's what the term the family used, so.
Yeah, if there was a way to drop that.
Yeah.
Probably be.
They can't, you know,
I
the
know
person
maybe
who
you
left,
can't
they
do
can't
that.
speak anymore to us,
Right.
so.
Yeah.
Well, we
Maybe
don't
lead with it.
But it's not
Don't call it
required for
that.
us to, you know, to use it, that term, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It's in, it can be in the language, but we can. they
Just
call
call it the
Filbert
Filbert Fund.
It's always been called the Filbert Fund.
Filbert Fund, yeah. That's in the definition of it,
Yeah.
but it's, yeah.
I think there were a couple of articles in the past when money was appropriated, it was stated in there, but again, that's what the family left it for, was that purpose, was that broad too.
Mhm.
No
Yeah,
other guidance there, just said to support the worthy poor of Damariscotta.
yeah, it's their legal statement. No, it's.
Okay.
Residents.
I don't
Yeah.
think we can get rid of it if it's illegal.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You're saying it's written on the check that they get?
The family that left the money and it was in their will.
Oh, I know that, but I mean, that term doesn't get,
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
no. It's just in the policy and to state what it's for and its face forward, you know, is just the Filbert Fund.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right. Well, anything else added in, Andy?
I don't have anything today.
You sure?
to be honest.
Anything added? Tom, we can start down to this end if you've got anything to add.
Me today.
Thanks.
I'm going to the Mid-Coast Council of Governments meeting tomorrow. I don't know, Andy, if you're going to that.
I think I'm gonna go virtually now.
Okay.
There's a Maine Climate Council meeting tomorrow as well to reveal second version of the climate action plan.
Okay.
Now that it's 4 years in from the first one, so that's happening tomorrow, early afternoon, so I'm gonna do both of those virtual.
Okay. Get me at two places at once.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have a good lineup for MCOG.
Yeah.
Amanda Rector is gonna speak, the state economist, in the morning, and then a roundtable on, it's all about resiliency, but a roundtable specifically on some of the coastal resiliency work, I believe, and then I forget exactly what's in the afternoon.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we can bring back some info to the,
Sure.
yeah,
We'll take notes.
takeaways. Awesome, Dan. Yeah, thank you. Oh, yeah. Hi, Andrea.
Hi, I'm good.
Yeah, good.
I'm so
John.
happy about
Yeah.
the parking lot. I think
Great.
Croc did a great job. I just feel like I never went out there and saw people standing around doing nothing. They were always working and
They're not state.
it was
that's why.
amazing.
Yeah,
They were, and they,
yeah, it's coming along. It's coming along very nicely.
I mean, they were so accommodating to give us as much parking as possible and. you know,
Communication was good.
mhm.
Yeah.
I think we're really, really lucky with this one.
Yeah. They knock on wood. They've done
Mhm.
well, so.
So
Awesome.
my
Yeah.
big question is, what is Andy gonna do every morning now?
Yeah.
So we're gonna have
To
to,
start down there.
we're gonna have to figure out, have his sub office, you know, have to take that away from him.
Focus, that's all. Just
She's gonna
back to
take
some other things.
one thing off his ever-growing list. I
Yeah.
think it's gonna make a huge dent, but.
People have
hoping.
mentioned,
Yeah.
well, now that that's gonna be done, you'll have all sorts of free time. I go, ah, winter's
Nope.
coming. Snow contracts. That's.
Maybe back to his real work.
No, I'm all set.
All right, thank you, Josh. Yeah, I won't add too much to it. It's like happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and have a good week. And yeah, it's good to see the parking lot shaping up. It's not done. But it's a huge step in the phase, so I have nothing else to add. Anybody, before we close for the evening, everybody out in the audience, good?
I'll be all right.
All right. Yeah, go ahead, Lisette.
It's gonna be the panels, I guess, right? Are they gonna be for the stone?
Yeah.
Are you gonna practice? Are you gonna put it there right, you know?
Yeah, I believe that, I'm trying to think, I think that particular company, I think that included them. There was some doing a setup with us potentially. I can't remember.
Can't remember.
But yes, there'll be practice with that.
The downtown people will know.
Wanna come see it?
No, we're not gonna provide the water though. We're not gonna provide the
Working on
water.
it.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, I think at some point we have to look into how it sets up and then have a policy more or less of when and who and how it's done. So still working out the details, but yeah, sounds like you want to volunteer to. Yeah, all right, awesome.
Trust me.
Yeah.
Wants to see it.
John.
Wow, we can put Lizette in charge of the committee.
We
Yeah.
we have the power to make appointments.
Yeah,
right? So we
yeah.
make up a new.
She's a deployment committee chair. Yeah.
But it'll be a learning,
Yeah.
it'll be a learning curve for everybody once it gets here and go through it. Yeah, it's be interesting to work out the bugs. So. Yeah, it's a great question, Melissa. Awesome. Well. Nothing else? All right, I'll entertain a motion to
I'll make a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn.
Josh gonna make a motion. Who wants to second it? Dan's gonna second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay. We are so adjourned.